Live from Hazard, Kentucky, this is Jammin John's Wrestling News. Here's your news for Thursday, September 27th, 2018. Corey Graves is the latest wrestling personality to come to the defense of Brie Bella over the accidental concussion that Brie gave Liv Morgan on Raw. It all started when Mike Johnson tweeted on Twitter, regarding the negative reaction to the Bella twins, there has not been one pro wrestler in the history of pro wrestling who hasn't made a mistake in the ring at some point. Stan Hansen dropped Bruno Sammartino on his head and broke his neck. Accidents happen. One did last night. A fan by the Twitter username @JWorf tweeted back to Mike Johnson saying, "You just compared Brie Bella to Stan Hansen." To which Corey Graves replied back to @JWorf by saying, "Accurately so. Especially in this day and age full of experts, accidents happen. I had my career ended because of them, and I harbor no ill will. It's not ballet. Screw anyone that thinks they know or can do better. I wish all of these smart fans were actually smart." @JWorf fired back at Corey Graves by saying, "Respectfully, I disagree on the comparison. It was an accident. However, not intentionally injuring someone is a pretty low bar to set as far as judging talent. I don't think it was intentional is a completely separate thought from my viewpoints on her wrestling abilities." Corey Graves fired back at @JWorf by saying, "Ryan, you're my friend, but I will gladly die on the hill that the business that made you and I fans has changed. My outlook has changed. It doesn't mean you're wrong, just that the it wasn't as good as Kobashi in '97 mindset doesn't work anymore." Kev Castle fired at Corey Graves by saying, "Of course, Corey, it's the fans who are not smart, and should be taken to task, not the 10-year vet. Who in the past 4 weeks injured or nearly injured several other wrestlers, and nearly broke her own neck doing reckless spots, when it was actually her bad? But yeah, screw everyone." And then Kev put a rolling eyes emoji at the end of that paragraph. Corey Graves fired back at Kev by saying, "I'm not taking anybody to task. I'm just saying that if the fans who know our business actually knew our business, they would understand the grind, the schedule. If they truly knew, they wouldn't be so quick to throw stones." Also, former WWE star Taz talked about Brie Bella giving Liv Morgan a concussion on Raw. Taz said, "I watched it many times from different angles. It's not intentional, it happens. Their timing, both girls, their timing was off. It's that simple. It happens. It's a cliche and you hear it all the time, but it's a shoot, it's not ballet." You might not hear this from people who work for WWE or want to go back to WWE, but I'm just going to say it. That match has to stop, and that girl needs to be taken out ASAP. Once she got knocked out, she should not have tried to get up. No one should have touched her neck. Taz continued on by saying, "Brie Bella was concerned about her, so she was checking on her, but everything needs to stop. She should not be involved in a spot later on. She should not have to lock up and push. You can see she's fallen down. Once Brie kicked her in the jaw and goes for the cover, you can see Brie is concerned. Brie knows something's wrong, and almost instinctively, Liv kicked out with such a weak kick out." Taz continued on by saying, "And then Brie's nervous, and she is picking her up by the head, and the referee doesn't know what to do, and Brie's trying to hold her up, and Liv can't even stand up. And she's got to be taken out of the ring, and it's got to end. It has got to completely just end. She has got to be taken out of the match. Nothing else should have happened. I just had to get that off my chest, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little surprised at what went down. Thanks to WrestlingInc.com for the quotes." I want to give my opinion on this whole situation with Brie Bella and Liv Morgan, because this is all I've heard ever since Monday. Now, for those of you who don't know what's going on, you've been living under a rock. This past Monday on Raw, there was a 6-woman tag team match. The Bella Twins and Natalya took on the Riot Squad, and in that match, Brie Bella and Liv Morgan were wrestling in the ring, and Brie Bella done some yes kicks, made famous by her husband, Daniel Bryan, of course, and one of the yes kicks hit Liv Morgan on the jaw, and Liv Morgan completely went limp. She was knocked out, and Brie Bella noticed that she was completely knocked out legit and got concerned, tried to go for a pin to end the match to get her some care, and Liv Morgan weakly kicked out of the pin attempt, I guess by instinct. So she wasn't really like completely knocked out, because she was able to do that, but she didn't really have a lot of strength because of that kick, of course. Now, Brie Bella picked her up from her head and tried to carefully put her back into the Riot Squad's turnbuckle, to which, one of the Riot Squad members tagged in. Liv Morgan, according to what I read online this past Monday, was taken out of the match during the commercial break of Monday Night Raw, and she was transported to a hospital to be tested for a concussion at around 10:30 p.m. Monday night. The next day, that's when we all found out that she had a concussion and that she was going to be out for a while. But when she got removed from the match during the commercial break, there was just, and pardon my language whenever I say this, but there was a massive shitwave of people that were just completely giving Brie Bella hell. And like, sure, every wrestler gets heat, and sure, every wrestler gets a lot of hell from fans, but this was the most that Brie Bella's ever gotten. In the, I guess, 11 years that she has been with WWE, that's the most shit from fans that I have seen Brie Bella ever get. And I'm looking at all this stuff, and it's just really irresponsible and horrible things being hurled at her, like Brie Bella should die, Brie Bella is a bitch, Brie Bella shouldn't be wrestling, Brie Bella's a horrible mom, she's a horrible wife. And I'm like, oh my god, why? I mean, accidents happen in pro wrestling. If you're going to be that mad at Brie Bella for something that I believe and a lot of people believe was not intentional, then tell me this. Where was this much hate for Seth Rollins when Sting got injured with the buckle bomb at Survivor Series and had to retire? Where was this much hate for D'Lo Brown for the Draws incident that I'm not going to get into? Google it if you've never heard of it before. DROZ incident. During the internet's infant stages of fruition on online message boards. Where was the hate for Owen Hart when Stone Cold Steve Austin got hurt? Where was the hate for Rey Mysterio, God forbid, on the tragic death of Perro Agoyo Jr.? Where was the hate on Dragon Lee when Hiromu Takahashi damn near broke his neck? Because I see none on Dragon Lee. So I don't know why just all this happened out of nowhere. I know that Brie Bella has not been the greatest in the ring the past month. Maybe all these marks out here online decided to go and, let that fester up inside of them, and then when they seen this, they're like, okay, we're going to unleash. Okay, alright. Well, you need to know that accidents happen. And I don't think Brie Bella would do that, because, what has Brie Bella got to lose? She doesn't have heat with Liv Morgan. She doesn't have nothing against Liv Morgan. Why would she do that to someone that she has no hard feelings against? And even people who wrestle that have hard feelings against one another, they sometimes, there's been instances where you will see legit receipts be handed out, but for the most part, they stay safe. They put on a show for the fans most of the time. There are times where it can get ugly, but most of the time they go out there and they stay professional. Because, at the end of the day, they're making a lot of money, and that's what wrestling's all about. So it really shocked me and it surprised me to see that. Because I bet 95 to 98% of these people that is putting Brie Bella down, for something that was an accident, that was not intentional. Because this is pro wrestling. This isn't wrestling on a bed, and falling on a mattress. This isn't wrestling and falling down on a bunch of pillows. You're falling down on a thin-ass mat with lumber underneath it. And when I set up a wrestling ring, when I started out in pro wrestling, paying my dues and stuff, let me say this, your perspective changes from a fan when you actually get involved in the business. Like you really, when I went and I put those metal support beams down and I put the lumber on top of the beams, tightened the nuts and bolts up for the turnbuckles and put the ropes on and the mat, the canvas. When you do all that, when you really get into the business, when you shut the fuck up and you actually get into the business and you see what it really is, independent scene, major promotion, your sense of things and your perspective of things changes. You don't have that viewpoint that a lot of these fans online have. When you really get into it, you really have more respect for pro wrestlers and what they do. Because I don't care who you are, falling down on a thin-ass mat with lumber underneath it, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt. It ain't gonna feel good, it's at least gonna hurt. And just the drive of these pro wrestlers going and driving thousands of miles with little money. This is the independent scene especially. Driving thousands of miles to get to one destination to the next with little money, little sleep, going out, wrestling in front of, so many people for maybe 10 minutes, 8 minutes, and probably getting paid anywhere between nothing to $15, $20, $50, if you're lucky, man. And continuing to do that, because a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people give up. I had to step away, because it's hard, and I'll admit that. Not everyone is made for this business. So for all these ones that's going out here and saying bad things about Brie Bella, and saying that she can't wrestle and that she has no ability, why don't you get in the ring? Unless you're a wrestler, show me what you got. Put your money where your mouth is. Show me. Because if you're not going to me, your opinion really doesn't matter. But if you can show me what you can do, prove me wrong, show me. I believe that she hasn't been up to par this past month because you got to realize she still has a lot of baby fat retained because she just had this baby not too long ago, and she's got some ring rust along with that. And I've noticed that whenever she done the dive to Ruby Riott a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that she's going through that funk. But every wrestler has been through that funk. Mark Henry's been through it. The Big Show's been through it. John Cena's been through it. Seth Rollins has been through it. Hell, even AJ Styles has been through it. So, it's just a funk. And that's what she's going through. She's got ring rust and stuff because she hasn't been in the ring in a while because of that pregnancy. And yeah, I mean, it just really surprised me how much hate she got out of nowhere. Because like I said, in all the years that I've been a pro wrestling fan and I have been involved in pro wrestling, and the 11 years that I think that she's been with WWE, I've never seen her get that much shit on her from fans. It really surprised me to see that. But like I said, I think it was not intentional. I don't think that she meant to do that. Because like I said, she don't got no hard feelings against Liv Morgan. And if you're going to be mad at her, then you ought to be mad at Seth Rollins, and you ought to be mad at D'Lo Brown and Rey Mysterio and Owen Hart and Dragon Lee. Because accidents happen. Come on, stop that. Now, the only things that I didn't like, and I will critique about that incident, is I think the referee should have done a hell of a lot better job being a referee in that match. Liv Morgan shouldn't have took the suplex spot. That she should have never even took that. I think the referee should be the one getting the most heat and not really Brie Bella. Not completely justifying Brie, because I don't think Brie should have picked her up by her head after she had that concussion. But you got to understand, Brie Bella was freaking out. She was nervous. She was scared for Liv Morgan, and that's, whenever you get scared, you don't really know what you're doing. You're pretty much going by like an instinct, and her instinct was to pick her up by her head, so that's what I think that was. I think that the referee should get a lot of heat for just letting Liv Morgan take that suplex spot after getting knocked out like that. She should have never had to take that. They should have just took her out right then and there, not during the commercial break. So that's the way I feel about it. You might have a different opinion than me, and that's all right. But I just don't think that it was intentional. It was an accident, and to all these ones out here criticizing her, why didn't you give this much heat to everyone else that's had an accident in the past? It just really blows my mind how out of nowhere she got all that heat. According to YouTube channel Hill by Nature, the WWE has filed several new WCW trademarks, including Fall Brawl and Halloween Havoc. Fingers crossed that we get Halloween Havoc in October as a pay-per-view. I've been wanting that to happen for so long. I really hope it does. WWE stock was traded as high as $96.23 today, with WWE stock prices continuing to reach new heights. At Front Row Brian on Twitter commented on what this means for the company. Front Row Brian tweeted, WWE stock up 2.4% today to $92.35. Market capitalization $7.2 billion. 30 to 40% acquires premium, and you're looking at a $9 to $10 billion price tag if Vince McMahon was willing to sell. So a whole lot of moolah. Indy star bad boy Joey Jelena noted on Twitter that he got his MRI test results and he is going to need surgery on his knee. Joey Jelena tweeted on Twitter, "Thank you fans, friends, wrestlers, and promoters for reaching out the past few days. It really has gotten me through. Really had no clue of how damaged it was, but here's the update to all that fun stuff. See you down the road. Take care. Love you all." And I want to send good vibes and well wishes out to bad boy Joey Jelena. Hate to hear about injuries happening, and I hope he gets better. I can't wait to see him back in the ring soon. The 2012 Pull-Apart Brawl segment on Monday Night Raw between John Cena and Brock Lesnar has now reached 100 million views on YouTube, making it the first wrestling-related video to reach that milestone. Both Raw and SmackDown this week took place at the Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado. According to Dave Meltzer of 4FWOnline.com, Monday Night Raw drew 6,300 fans, considered low for Raw, and just 3,500 fans for SmackDown Live. Dave Meltzer of 4FWOnline.com noted the following regarding the current Neville situation and why he hasn't made any appearances since leaving WWE, despite reportedly being free to do so. Dave Meltzer said, "He was in talks with some promotions, but told them he wasn't ready to start yet, citing legal issues. He's then completely gone off the grid and hasn't responded to promoters as best we can tell. Will Ospreay wanted to do a singles match with him at Wrestle Kingdom, but we have no idea if he's up for that or anything in wrestling right now." During a recent interview with Sam Roberts, Wade Barrett commented on the end of his WWE run by saying, "I was miserable for a long time. For the last few years I was in WWE. I have no beef or hate for him, but it was just how I was feeling at the time. Once upon a time, if you go back to the early 2000s all the way to 2014, all I cared about in life was being a wrestler. Going on the road, performing in front of crowds, getting big, climbing the ladder. But then at some point around 2015, it took a giant U-turn, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, what am I doing here? This isn't the direction that I want." Thanks to WrestlingInc.com for the quotes. And finally, here on Jammin John's Wrestling News, Alberto El Patron threw some shade at his former girlfriend Paige on his Instagram account. A few responded to a photo of El Patron at dinner with a woman next to him, and here was El Patron's response. It all started when Professionally GG on Instagram said, "She's way better looking than Paige. Yes, even Paige Latina version 2018. To which Alberto El Patron replied back, "Yes, and this one doesn't have more than 9 police reports against her, or free arrest in different states, or committed in 2 mental hospitals like the one you mentioned did. And with real evidence, not just lies, from her loser brother." And that is your news for Thursday, September 27th, 2018. Check back here tomorrow for another Jammin John's Wrestling News Flash Briefing on Amazon Alexa devices. Big shout out to everybody listening to this on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Stewie Family is the name. Follow me on Twitter at John Caldwell, JONCOLWELL. Follow me on Instagram, the Jammin John. If you'd like to sponsor Jammin John's Wrestling News, or you're a wrestling promotion wanting to get your next big event out through the awesome power of Amazon Alexa, you can email me, jzcaldwell@gmail.com. That's JZCOLWELL@gmail.com. Big shout out to Ryan Hurdle and Tony Nelson for subscribing to my Patreon. You too can subscribe to me by going to patreon.com/jamminjohn. I have free packages on there ranging from $3 to $7. Not a whole lot of money. I would really appreciate it if you supported me a little bit financially. Once again, that's patreon.com/jamminjohn. This is Jammin John saying thanks, goodbye, and I'll see you tomorrow.